the snake comes and he's talking to Eve. The lie that he's using is to convince her that as God has created her and the situation she's living in, she is lacking. That the way that God made her is not good enough and she needs to do something in order to be all that she could be. And my goodness, is that not the lie that every woman has lived under since?
For sure.
And that is part of what sin brought into the world.
Yes.
And we have struggled against that ever since that first moment in the garden. Hey moms, welcome back to the Gather Moms podcast. We are in our series on Fix Your Face, and we are talking about the areas where we may need a face fixing in our lives. So last week we talked about fixing our faces with our husbands. For our mamas for whom that didn't apply, thank you for just hanging with us.
Yes.
Another major area where I think that we need to fix our face is the one I want us to talk about in this episode. And that is when we look at our own face.
I looked at my face this morning.
And how did you respond when you looked at your face?
Well, I don't know if y'all remember, pre-New Year, I told you one of my goals was to take care of my face this year.
Okay.
I feel like I'm killing it.
Great.
I have a new skincare regime.
Okay.
I'm spending more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. I feel good about my skin on my face.
Do you always feel good? Are there some days that you don't feel so good?
Oh, yeah. I had a pimple like 2 weeks ago that I felt like was a giant mountain on my chin. And now when my kids get them, I'm like, I just want to get them.
Oh, I know. I have one on my cheek that is like, I swear it is like it's just taking up residence.
No, they just like hang out for a while.
Yeah.
And I've used those little
The
pimple
tools?
the pimple patch. What do you call that?
Oh, a pimple patch? Yeah.
No, it's like this clear sticker you put
Yeah.
over it. Yeah, I use those things.
Isn't that what it's called? Pimple patch?
I just feel like we need a better name.
I don't know, but the kids just be wearing those out.
Adult acne. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I don't have a better word for it, but I just don't love it. So anyway, I use those. I think they work.
Picker sticker.
Sounds terrible.
To keep you from picking at it.
That sounds terrible.
Okay, I got those for my kids. I got them all kinds of. They have the like good gel. I can't think of. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. I can't think of the name.
Mario Badesca.
No, stop everything. It's like Cetaphil or something like that. It's like a good. You're just supposed to put it on your pimples and it helps dry them up.
Yes. Oh, so this is so random. I don't know if people need to know this, but my son did Accutane my sophomore, and it did not work for us, partially because he was not committed to the progress.
Okay.
So I just ordered this organic. It's called Norse Organics face system for him.
Okay.
It's from like Alaska.
Fantastic.
And it's kind of weird. You have to do certain things.
Okay.
But I think it's working.
This is your college kid?
No, this is my high school kid.
Okay, so you can monitor.
Yes, I can monitor. I've given up on the college kid. Live your best life.
Okay, but didn't that kid do Accutane too?
Yeah, and it worked for him.
Okay, so because you had done that,
yes,
and then my, I think Caleb was maybe 14 or 15, was struggling.
Yes.
And so you said, go do it. But I mean, that thing is serious.
Oh, it's serious. And you have to stay the course.
Yeah.
So Jake stayed the course.
Okay.
But this other child did not stay the course.
We had to get blood draws and stuff.
Every month.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was serious business.
Yeah, and so when he kind of gave up on it.
Yeah, you were like, fine, because this was a lot.
I don't really want to do it anyway.
No, I completely understand, because I remember it being a lot. And so now when he is picking at his face and he gets stuff, I'm so mad, because I'm like, we spend so much time and money.
Oh, I know. So this little regime is not cheap, but it's something that he was willing to do, the process, because it's several steps, and he's liking it. And so I'm like, okay, let's go.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I feel like, it's just kind of like trial and error with that stuff. But I have mixed feelings when I see my own face. I will tell you, I have never had a jump scare like the one I get when I open my phone and open the camera app, and it's accidentally on selfie mode.
What? I love selfie mode.
When you're trying to open your camera and it opens and you see your 25 double chins.
That's that 0.5 kids are doing now, where it's like that super close up. I was always like, can I take a 0.5 of you? That's the worst picture you'll ever see.
Oh, I know. They're super weird.
Super weird.
But we just have different feelings about when we see our own faces, and there's just so much focus on our mirror reflection and on our appearance.
Well, they're everywhere. That's like the new decor item, is to put mirrors all over your house.
Really?
Yes, I have a mirror in my front entry. I have a mirror in my kitchen area. I have a mirror in my bathroom. I got a full length in my bedroom. I mean, we got mirrors everywhere.
I like mirrors, not for looking in, but just because they feel like they reflect light and stuff for the aesthetic, not so much for the.
Yeah, but every once in a while, it's nice to stop and just like check a little place, you know?
Sure. And if there's a mirror handy,
Yes.
that's very nice. Yeah. But I started thinking about like, when did all this start? When did we start becoming so obsessed with our looks? So I thought like, okay, maybe this beauty obsession started in like the 1920s. Because there was like the flapper girls and like that's when magazines started coming out. Mm-hmm. That's the first like media. Well, maybe there were like some newspapers before that, but that's when they were selling beauty products and things. But then I thought, no, it was before that, because I do know that women in like the late 1800s, there were magazine advertisements for them because they were selling corsets and
yes.
Okay, so women
dress
were
shops and such.
Right? Mm-hmm. Women were wearing corsets to make their waist thinner. And, so then I kept going back and back, and I was like, well, actually, this all started in the very beginning.
Of course.
This has been
in the garden. Are we going back to the garden?
From the
They
garden.
did not have a mirror in the garden. They did not.
No, but this obsession with looks and being dissatisfied with the way that you look and wanting to cover up or fix it started in the garden. Like, it's from very early in the Bible. So we can talk about that. But I also thought about, like, so Solomon's wife, if you ever read Song of Solomon, so she's in.
We tried to skip that in the Old Testament class at my private Christian school. I'm like, we don't need to be doing that. It's part of the Old. I mean, it's in the Old Testament.
What are you gonna do?
Well, I'm not there yet, but
because even I was reading it today to prep for this, and I was like, this is so spicy.
It's racy. Yes, I don't trust my freshman students. I always tell them when I get something uncomfortable, I say, go home and ask your mom. So it's going to be like, go home and ask your mom. Yes.
And there's so many things you're like, I don't know. It kind of looks like one thing, but then you're like, do you know what that really means?
Tell us, Kate, what are you talking about?
No, okay, so let's move along. So she is in 931 BC. Okay, so that was way back. And it talks about in chapter 1, she's saying how ashamed she is that her skin is dark because she has had to work outside. So he's seeing her, mm-hmm. and she's ashamed over her appearance. She wanted, I guess, light skin was attractive, which is hilarious because now we like put on self tanner and
tan it up,
Yes, but then he has to spend like chapters trying to help her see how he sees her, mm-hmm. how beautiful she is, and all of that,
Should we ask for that from our spouses? I'd like a chapter, please.
Absolutely. No, it would make me so uncomfortable. Esther was in 483 BC, and in Esther 2, it talks about, listen, it's so ridiculous. Before she went to the king, do you know how long her beauty treatments were?
6 months.
6 months plus 6 months.
Yes.
There were 2 6-month periods. The first 6 months was beauty treatments with oil. Mm-hmm. And then the second 6 months was perfumes and cosmetics. And she was on a special diet. Absolutely not.
I don't know. A year of just like hanging out in a palace and taking care of my skin.
Okay. But you'd also have to be with all these other women who were like competing.
A lot. Yeah. A lot of women.
It's like The Bachelor on steroids.
Yes.
I
bet they had a lot of mirrors in that harem.
Listen, and you didn't get to choose if you were choosing that bachelor or not. Like, it's dark. That's what happened.
I just did that in my Old Testament class. No, we just did that in my 7th grade class. And it made me so uncomfortable teaching it because I know behind the scenes story.
Yeah.
But they're all still pretty innocent. So they didn't catch it all. And I was like, let's just keep moving.
Yeah.
Let's just keep on moving.
Right.
Yes.
No, that girl did not have a choice in the matter.
Because there's a scripture that says, like, she goes in the evening and then comes out in the morning.
Yeah.
And we read that. I had a kid read that, actually. I was like, dang it, I should have skipped that one. Nobody said anything. So we just kept on trucking.
I mean,
just a slumber party. That's all.
Listen, it's in the Bible. So, but yeah, it does get tricky with how do you handle, what level do you explain that to them? Okay, so then it continues in the Bible. In the New Testament, women are admonished to not focus on outward beauty of braided hair and gold jewelry, but the inner beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which was important to God.
Yes.
So there's just always been this focus on appearance as humans, and especially as women. it's this thing about women, because nobody's talking about how men look. Nobody, not in the same way.
Right.
Like, men maybe want big muscles and they
Yes.
want to keep their hair, but there's not.
If we could narrow it down to two, it's muscles and hair. Yes.
I mean, am I wrong?
That's so true. They just want to keep their hair. I love that.
But with women, like from the beginning, there's been this focus on women's looks. It's always been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in its ideal sense, it's women being admired for their beauty, but there's just always been this focus on it. And so we go through these trends to try and keep up with whatever the latest beauty thing is, you know. I think we've talked about before, like dumb things we did in high school and stuff. Like, did you crimp your hair? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, I wasn't a crimper. I did the poodle bangs.
Oh, poodle bangs, that's right.
Yes, I did poodle bangs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely crimped my hair, you know, had a caboodle.
Love the caboodle.
Blue eyeshadow in it.
I was not allowed to wear blue eyeshadow. Thank you.
You were not allowed.
No, I don't.
Bless your little bubble.
No. Yeah.
Well, honestly, that was probably spared you.
I didn't have the Jabot jeans either.
Oh, that's
so
right.
It's all right.
Because who looks good in blue eyeshadow? Let's be honest, you know.
Maybe we should try it again.
Listen, I really don't think,
Anybody?
no, I just don't think it's a good look, you know.
Yeah.
But we may look back in years from now and be like,
What is all them neutrals those people got on their face? They should have some color.
yes, what's this nude lipstick? She looks sick. Or, you know, these laminated eyebrows, you know, which is a whole thing.
Oh, we could go down a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
Not eyebrows, eyelashes.
And eyelashes.
Eyelashes.
Could you imagine somebody from the past coming across someone from today that has like the really thick fake eyelashes, and they'd be like, you know, did a spider die on your eyeball? I think they'd be concerned. I think they'd be concerned.
Yes.
So I think right now, though, it's so interesting. I think we're at an interesting time in history of beauty culture, and I wonder what this will look like 100 to 100 years from now, you know, as people study us, if Jesus doesn't come back before then. But I think the interesting part of beauty right now is just what you started off the episode talking about, because I think we're at an interesting time where we're more focused on skincare and anti-aging than ever before.
Agreed. Yes.
You know? And you think about, like, I mean, even like 5 years ago, if someone would have told me that I just needed to put this mask on that had red lights, where I looked like, you know, something that just stepped out of a UFO, and that was going to keep my face from wrinkles, I would be like, that's absolutely insane.
Yes.
I'm not doing that.
Oh,
You know?
but now you have one.
I have a wand.
Oh, the wand. That's right. You have the wand.
I have a little wand.
Yes.
I would happily wear the mask thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But I just don't know. Like, I just feel like we're kind of just, in a sense, just kind of just throwing our money in the trash can a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
On that
But
stuff.
if somebody gave me one, I would totally use it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
You know, you kind of have to go like,
How much of this? No, that's the truth. How much you can invest in?
yeah,
It could literally, you could spend all your money.
all your money.
And part of me thinks it's genetics. So I'm like, I'm not really sure what you're getting done there.
Yeah. Look at your mother.
Look at your
Look at
mother.
your father.
Yes.
Look at your
Exactly.
aunts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that might be able to help you know, like, this is what's coming for you. And yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even just the sense of, like, why do we care? When did we decide that you can't age? That, like, your beauty is related to how many lines you have on your face or how tight your forehead is? Like, when did that become such a thing?
I don't know. It has, I mean, media driven, consumerism.
Sure.
Money.
But, you know, like, I just am so curious about where that started. And then, you know, who was the first person to, like, inject their lips with, you know,
Jennifer Aniston.
fillers? And do you think?
I just am guessing names.
You know, and I don't know, just the crazy things we do. People, who was the first person to think, like, I think it would be a good idea if I let a surgeon take a knife to my face and cut skin off and then pull my face tight and sew it back on, you know? Like, when did we think this was a good idea?
I think that's crazy. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And now listen, honestly, no shade. If you are good in your heart and you do that and it makes you feel good, I honestly, no judgment. I'm just trying to say, I think there's a root where we're kind of like when did we become so obsessed with anti-aging? And we're doing the craziest things. You know, Korean skincare is all the rage.
Snails? Is that the snails?
Snails. So my mom for my birthday got me all this, and they try and call it snail mucin.
Which sounds disgusting.
Well, so that maybe you don't really think about really what it is. But it's the slime that you see on the ground. That you're putting on your face.
Are you doing it? Are you putting it on your face?
Okay, I really am, because I ran out of my other moisturizer, and so I've been using this.
What do you think?
I have it on right now. I don't know that it makes a difference.
You don't? Oh.
I mean, listen, if you could take a slug and rub it on your face and it made the lines less, sure.
That's what you were just saying, though. Who thought of picking a snail up?
Yeah.
And grabbing his slime.
I'm thinking that was going to be a good
idea. And rub it on their face.
Okay, so I have to tell you, you need to prepare yourself for this.
Oh, gosh.
The latest anti-aging thing that they're doing, this is coming out of Korean skincare. You ready?
I'm ready.
Salmon sperm.
Is that the fish?
Okay, so this is what this article said. I really did look up, like, what are people doing? What is the latest anti-aging things?
Currently, my mind is like, how do they get it?
Okay. Rejurin, also known as salmon DNA, PDRN treatment, has gained popularity in Korea for its regenerative properties, promoting skin repair and rejuvenation. It's microneedling, where they do the little needles, and then they put salmon sperm skin booster on top. However, due to the discomfort of the procedure and the need for ongoing maintenance, skincare products infused with PDRN are becoming a rising trend, with more brands incorporating this ingredient. So just watch. The next time you go to get skincare, it's going to be like salmon sperm.
I think I'm going to turn around and work out. That doesn't even sound fun to put on my face. I don't know what to say.
But again, who thought of that? Who saw, or how do you collect? And then think.
They need a job. Somebody has too much time on their hands, and they need a job.
And then think, okay.
And who do you convince to be the first one? Come here. Let me try this on you. No.
And let's just rub it around on our faces.
I'm just going to put my hand up against all animal things, snails and salmons, and I thought you were going to say sheep guts or something. I mean, that's probably next.
I think there is stuff with animal products like placenta and things like that they are using. I don't know. Y'all.
Jesus is coming back.
But it's crazy.
When you get to heaven, your face is going to be beautiful.
But it's just, I just wanted us to go, hello, when did we do this?
Yes, yes.
But the truth is, and what we were talking about from the beginning, is that this has been a problem from the beginning.
Right.
So you think about the original, the beautiful picture God created in the garden. You remember that Adam was alone, and, God parades all these animals before him, and he couldn't find a suitable helper. So then God creates the woman. And when Adam sees her for the first time, we know from the language he uses that he was excited to see her.
Yes.
There was this celebration. And so in the perfect garden, there was this moment, and the way that God created it, where it was like, she was a joy for him to behold.
Right.
There was something about her physical appearance, and then potentially to him seeing that, she's like me, but not like me. Mm-hmm. So there's also this relational enjoyment of now I have a partner.
Right.
This is someone who is probably attractive to me in more ways than just physically, and now is a suitable helper for me. That's what the scripture called it. Different from the animals, right? And so there was some kind of in that moment where he saw her and rejoiced. And there was this beautiful picture in that, which is, it seems like that's how it's supposed to be, where it's when a man finds his partner, this woman, when he sees her, there's this piece of rejoicing, not only in her physical appearance, but in you're the suitable helper for me. Together, we're going to be something that we couldn't be apart.
So it's more than just the outside.
Absolutely. And so then you get to the snake comes and he's talking to Eve. And, if you look at the language that he uses with her, the lie that he's using is to convince her that as God has created her and the situation she's living in, she is lacking. That the way that God made her is not good enough. And she needs to do something in order to be all that she could be. Mm-hmm. And my goodness, is that not the lie that every woman has lived under since?
For sure.
And then, she eats of the fruit and Adam eats of the fruit. And then that's when this physical shift happens. Not only then do we lose relationship with God and we lose relationship with one another, but there's also this brokenness in our own bodies. Because then it's in that moment that they both realize they're naked.
Right.
And they were ashamed.
Yes. And it says their eyes were opened.
Their eyes were opened.
Yes.
They were naked and they were ashamed. For the first time, they feel shame at their physical appearance.
Right.
And that is part of what sin brought into the world.
Yes.
And we have struggled against that ever since that first moment in the garden. This shame with our physical appearance. What we do know, though, is that this side of heaven, there will always be that struggle. Mm-hmm. However, God and his redemptive plan offers us the ability to have victory over sin in a way we will not fully get to understand until we get to heaven, but that we can start to redeem some of those things that happened that fell apart in the garden, even here on earth. And this is an area where I think we have to look at, okay, what is God's redemption plan for this? And start fighting back a little bit. Because in so many ways, I see how Christian women, we look at what the culture has taught us and we go, okay, we're not going to do that. The culture says if someone's mean to you, you cut them off and you may be violent toward them or you get them back. We're like, no, Jesus says we forgive and we're
keep our mouth shut.
Right. And so we're like, okay, for sure. The culture says drink and eat and smoke and, as much as you want. And we're like, no, we don't believe that.
Right.
It's not good for us. We're not going to do those things. There are so many things in which the culture says one thing and we've said, no, we look to the Bible for our instructions and that is not what the Bible says.
Do you think we're not doing it here?
I think that when it comes to, this is a soapbox I could stand on because I think that in so many areas we have done that, except in this area. We have gone, okay, the culture says this is what beauty is. Absolutely. I'm just going to bow down to what that says.
Yep.
The culture says this is how I take care of my body. Absolutely. I'm just going to do what it says. The culture says I should buy this skin cream and do this workout and eat these things. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And this is our bodies,
right?
Created by God in the image of God that he says is a temple of the Holy Spirit. If we should be getting any instruction on how to take care of these bodies, it better be coming from the one who created it.
Ooh, girl, I hear it.
So I just think it's wild that there are so many ways in which we have said no, and this is an area where we have just completely bowed down to whatever the world has to say about our bodies. And I think we have to, as women who believe in God and who believe in the Bible, we have to pay attention to what we are watching and consuming, because more than anything, it's having an extreme effect on the way that we see ourselves. So the way we see our face in the mirror has so much to do with where we are fixing our face throughout the rest of the day. And you've probably heard me teach this before because I did the Freshman 15 many years ago, and I got to go around and teach high school senior girls things to get them ready for their freshman year in college. The Freshman 15 were 15 things to help them get ready. One of the things we talked about was body image. Mm-hmm. And in studying that, I remember coming across this study that forever changed my mind about the just incredible impact that media has on the way we see ourselves. And so what I came across was this study by a sociologist named Becker, and he had been studying the people in Fiji in the early 90s. And so it was very interesting that he had been on that island studying, especially the focus was on body image. And in Fiji at that time, they had not had television. They had no cable television. It's a remote island, and they were pretty behind the times. Like, they had just gotten electricity and things like that. And so he happened to be there during the time in which he was going to be able to see how the influence of television affected young women. And so I think he started in 1990 when the television came, and he particularly studied this group of 30 young women. And before the television came, Fijians, native Fijians, their ideal body type was more rotund.
Yes.
Just like in our ancient cultures.
Yes.
You know, it was always a round body type showed that you were wealthy and well fed.
Yes.
And there was no disordered eating, nothing of like that any reported. And so he studies them for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, where there had been 0 issues of disordered eating, now 96% of the young women he was studying now had disordered eating or body image issues.
Because of the introduction of television?
All related to the introduction of television. Nothing else changed in these women that
they
he
just
was
got
studying.
to see an image of somebody else.
Yes.
That looked different.
And what they cited were the 2 main shows they were watching, which was 90210.
What?
And Melrose Place. And all of a sudden, these women are dieting. They're dissatisfied with the way that they look. They're, trying to change their eating behaviors. Their beauty standards have changed.
So sad.
And they were able to pinpoint it to, it was not just correlation, it was causation. It was the fact that the TV had been introduced and the way it affected them. And, teaching young girls that back in, 2007 and stuff when we were doing this was one thing. Because we were able to say, hey, TV affects you and things like that. Okay. Well, 2007 we barely have Instagram at that point. All right. We are living in a very different world.
Yes.
If you think that, if these young women were watching 2 television shows, so maybe that's an hour, maybe that's 2 hours out of their life where they're watching. Okay. In a week, that's 2 hours in a week.
Yeah.
How many hours are we spending looking at images of other women telling us what we should look like and how we should dress and beauty trends?
Yes.
Like, that's what is filling our feed all the time. So if it affected them at that scale, how much more
we should be off the charts.
And we are. Do you know a single woman who is, completely satisfied with the way that she looks? No, just say no, you don't.
Infants.
I don't. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
And as much work as I've done in this area to get free of that idol image, there are still pieces where God's still having to refine the way that I see myself.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to be thinking about how much it's affecting us, what we are fixing our eyes on. And I want us to remember, last time when I shared about Jehoshaphat, we talked about how you steer where you stare. Mm-hmm. Another important statement I want us to remember is that you become what you behold.
Yes.
And I loved, we have become a society that is the selfie society. And we are beholding ourselves.
Yes. That's
what we're thinking about all the time is how I look. How am I being perceived? How am I going to look in these pictures and things like that? And I love this quote I read from a gentleman who was writing on this, and he said, the ultimate reason why we are so preoccupied with ourselves is because we are not sufficiently occupied with Christ. Mm. Martin Lloyd-Jones said, there is only one way to get rid of self, and this is that you should become so absorbed in someone or something else that you have no time to think about yourself. And so that we would think about, how often are you thinking about yourself and compared to how often you're thinking about Christ? Because if our faces are fixed on ourselves, it is going to continue that occupation with ourselves.
Yes.
And if our faces are fixed on our phones and watching, influencers or whatever we're watching, how much is that going to affect us?
I love the wording you use with absorbed. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that's kind of a buzzword right now in society because they're talking about like even the type of skincare products you use, what your skin is absorbing, to try and like clean ingredients and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it's, as moms, we know this, that our children are sponges and they just absorb whatever around them. But we never imagine ourselves as a sponge that absorbs whatever's around us. But just what you're talking about, even if I am not fully engaging with the media that's coming across my phone, those images are being absorbed into my mind, which then gets absorbed into my heart. Yeah. And so even if I'm not being intentional about it, I have got to be more concerned about what I'm even allowing myself to be exposed to.
Yes. Because it does create this preoccupation with ourselves that is unhealthy. And then as we are preoccupied with ourselves, we're not typically thinking, ooh, I look so great. Ooh, I'm so wonderful. The preoccupation is, what do I need to fix? Mm-hmm. How can I get better? Where do I need to tweak? And it's a preoccupation with dissatisfaction.
Right.
And it creates these very unhealthy things that we do where, you know, we go to take a picture. Somebody wants to take a picture with us and we're hiding behind our kids. Or somebody takes a picture and we want to see it immediately so that we can see how we look in it. Yeah. Or, you know, we don't let our children, I'm thinking specifically about pictures because I see moms doing this all the time. You know, don't you, where they're like, oh, I'm not going to be in that picture or something like that, you know.
Or just the fact that they don't have any pictures.
Yeah.
Because they just, when it's time to take a picture, they don't even get in it. Yes. They don't even try.
Yes. And I've noticed this for myself. One of the things I had to do was, there was a while where, in the rise of the influencer era, which now we're solidly in, but when all of that was new, there were so many women that I followed and they were great. But I noticed that it was creating this unsettled sense in me of things I needed to have, ways I needed to look, because as you're seeing them modeling their clothes or showing you how to put on makeup or showing you how to do your hair, the more that you're thinking, okay, well, that's how I'm supposed to look. That's how I'm supposed to do it. And it feeds that monster.
Yeah.
And it creates a dissatisfaction. And so there came a day where I just had to unfollow every influencer.
Right.
And, Mama listening, that may not be you, but that may be you. Like you may hear that and go, "Ooh, that's probably what I need to do." Because, I don't know. Now my feed is filled with like cute babies and people doing dances and, things
bedwetting.
Like that.
Yeah. That's what you said.
That's right. Weird bedwetting. And so, I think it's interesting. Watch what the algorithm is feeding you because that's what you've been feeding your mind. And so, as you're fixing your eyes on that, how is that affecting you? I thought about, as we think about fixing our faces on Jesus and the change that creates, I thought about Peter in the boat. Mm-hmm. And the story is that all the disciples were in the boat and they see Jesus walking on the water toward him. At first they think he's a ghost.
Yes.
And he says, "It's me." And Peter, who's such a wild character, like who would think of saying this to Jesus? But he says, "Jesus, let me walk on the water out towards you." And so Jesus says, "Come." And we know that as Peter was looking at Jesus, he walked confidently toward him. With his eyes on Jesus, there was this confident assurance as he moved forward. But in the moment when the wind and the waves swept up and Peter started to look around, that's when he started to sink. Mm-hmm. That's when he got into trouble, when he took his eyes off of Jesus. And how much more so for us, that when we have our eyes fixed on Jesus, there is a beautiful confidence for us as we step boldly toward him. It's in the moments where we take our eyes off of him and fix them on other things when we start to sink. 2 Corinthians 4 says, verse 16, it says, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is seen is eternal." And then 2 Corinthians 3:18 says this, "And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." And for me, that's the beauty goal, is that he would give me the grace to behold him so significantly, so much throughout the day, from day to day, that my face would be conformed to the image of Christ. And so, that scripture talks about Moses coming down from the mountain. That's what precedes that, is Moses coming down from the mountain and reflecting the Lord's glory. And the scripture right there says that we have that opportunity, that we can do that. And so if we have any beauty goal, it should not be anti-aging or less wrinkles or, certain clothes or certain hair. That our beauty goal should be reflecting Christ. And the only way we get to do that is by beholding him more and more, because we become what we behold. And so, moms, that's my challenge for us today, is that we would stop getting our beauty cues from the culture and get them from the Creator. And that we would be about the things that our Creator God says to be about. That he says in 1 Samuel that man looks at the outward appearance, but he looks at our heart. And so could we fix our eyes on Jesus and run hard after him and forget ourselves and listen to what he says is beautiful and make that our goal? We love you so much, moms.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.